Hey everybody, gonna have to content yourselves with another one of these extremely low budget phone based streams. Just the way it goes when you don't have the setup required to do the traditional computer based streams, which aren't themselves even particularly high budget anyway. Alright, so Bernie has won the New Hampshire primary. It is slightly close in the popular vote. It looks like his margin over Pete is going to be around 1%. So he and Pete will get equal number of delegates. Now, you'll probably get some media spin which says that, oh, because Bernie and Pete got the same amount of delegates, they both won. And in fact, Pete now has more delegates total because he got 2 more than Bernie in Iowa. And, you know, there are always a variety of ways to spin these things. They're going to say, oh, Bernie's support collapsed compared to 2016. I mean, empirically, that's true in a way, but so what? It's a new cycle. He won. He got the most votes. So to call this anything other than a win is just ridiculous. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you're not looking up my nostrils. It's clear that the last week of extremely positive media coverage did in fact help Pete. If you look at the exit polls, Pete won pretty handily among people who decided who they were going to vote for in the past week and even on the day of. But that said, the media boosted Klobuchar into contention by proclaiming her the winner of the debate on Friday night on the basis of what? I don't know. They claim that it's their objective assessment of her performance, but I watched that debate. Wasn't bowled over by Amy Klobuchar. So it just shows you how manufactured these election-related narratives can be by the media and how it actually does have a legitimate effect on the electorate. The media gifted Amy Klobuchar this late surge in New Hampshire. Now, she's not going to win, but she went up about 10 points in a week. So, when people rail about the corporate media, when people talk about how pernicious it is when the media actively marginalizes certain candidates and actively elevates others, this is an example of why that is so consequential. They essentially just concocted this narrative on behalf of Amy Klobuchar and propelled her into third place here, where she got now 6 delegates out of New Hampshire. As of this current reading, with 90.7% of precincts in, let me actually make sure I have the right, most up-to-date results. Yeah, so with 91% reporting, Amy Klobuchar has 19.8% of the vote in New Hampshire with 6 delegates. A week ago, her support was half that, maybe less. And because in primaries, where they're very volatile, people don't really pay attention to the last minute, or a lot of them. These kind of late, whipped up, manufactured media narratives really do have an outsized impact, especially if you're in a low turnout, a relatively low turnout primary situation, where often people don't have particularly strong preferences amongst the candidates. So it's not like a general election situation. I personally spoke to voters today who told me that they hadn't decided who they were going to vote for until they walked into the voting booth. So if you have a couple days of very positive, sort of artificial coverage boosting Amy Klobuchar, yeah, that has an impact. So the Bernie lead over Pete as of right now, and this may narrow a little further, is 1.5%. Bernie 25.9, Pete 24.4. The late Klobuchar boom probably deprived Pete of an outright victory. Because 25.9%, hey, he won, no doubt about it. But that's a margin that could have possibly been surmounted if there was a little bit more coalescence around Pete. And but that was blunted. At the same time, they did win an equal number of delegates, and Pete's going to have an argument for why he can proceed now as a quasi front runner. But obviously, Bernie has won the most votes out of anybody over the course of these first two contests. So that's a if we're gonna understand what this primary process is as a democratic contest, then by the raw democratic vote totals, Bernie is the leader. But this is pretty much exactly the scenario that Bloomberg is hoping for, where you have Bernie as the leader, but in terms of sheer number of delegates, it's still tight. And so Bloomberg can come in these massive media markets, dump millions and millions and millions of dollars, and in all likelihood get himself some delegates to the point where he can be a chaos agent, deprive anybody of getting a majority of delegates going to the convention, and then see what happens. Maybe he can just buy off every Democratic power broker, and who knows? I still think that the potential for chaos is still pretty high. Bernie probably has a good chance of winning Nevada. I would say he's certainly the favorite in Nevada. Although, maybe Biden reevaluates here and says, wow, I'm the former vice president, and I came in 5th place in New Hampshire. He's at 8.4 right now. How can I really proceed here? I know he kind of skipped New Hampshire's his victory party and went straight to South Carolina. And so maybe he gets out. Maybe they rally around Klobuchar. Who knows? The point is that there's a lot of scenarios that could play out here. In terms, I was a little surprised that Yang dropped out when he did. It was really before most of the votes had been counted. So obviously he knew that he didn't perform to the level that he would have liked, but I just found it strange that he dropped out at the precise timing that he did. Especially when he had raised here's a ton of money. So why not just compete through the first 4 states? I think he overextended in his campaign, did not conserve resources properly, which is ironic given his whole math theme, and therefore I guess figured that it would not be sustainable. As far as Tulsi, yeah, I think it's worth being blunt. I think that her ultimate total here, which is at 3.3%, 90, she's probably going to end up with something like maybe close to 10,000 votes, maybe a little less. Not exactly the total that would have been ideal for her. I think that there were things that maybe could have been done to optimize that vote. And, um, but she placed ahead of Yang. She placed ahead of Deval Patrick, who is the former governor of her neighboring state. Placed ahead of Michael Bennet, who, of course, they put ahead of her at the New Hampshire Democratic Party dinner on Saturday. And she's within a couple hundred votes of Tom Steyer, a billionaire who flooded the state with ads nonstop for many months. So, I don't think anybody was really under the illusion that necessarily she was going to win the New Hampshire primary or even necessarily get delegates because she'd have to clear the 15% threshold. But I think there's definitely an argument for her to continue, and she's continuing. She went directly to South Carolina from New Hampshire tonight. So, what she is clear about is that she believes that she has a principled message, and she's going to continue using the platform afforded to her by the presidential campaign process to expound that message. And there are many opportunities here to pick up delegates. Only 2 contests in. You got, South Carolina as an open primary, which could potentially benefit her. Open in the sense that Republicans can also vote in South Carolina. Whereas in New Hampshire, you had to either be a Democrat or uncommitted. So you could get, she could get maybe a delegate there. Who knows? Depending on how the race plays out. You have to bear in mind that there was an active, intentional, malicious marginalization campaign waged against her by the media. And that's why I mentioned Klobuchar vis-a-vis the power of concocted media narratives. It does make a difference. Most people are not political wonks. They're not following every little development on Twitter all day like me and maybe some of you. So those media narratives have consequences. Excluding her from the debates has consequences. Even though, based on these results, there is no reason why she should have been excluded from the debates while Steyer and Yang were included. She's ahead of Yang, and she's sort of trivially behind Steyer. Zero reason why to exclude her from the final town halls that were at a crucial moment when voters who maybe hadn't been paying attention for over a year, like me and you, others who are intimately involved in this, that's when they were making their final decision. So you exclude her, and you give the impression that people don't even think that she's running. That said, there are a couple interesting findings here in the exit poll data. If you go look at CNN, they say that among white men with no college degree, Tulsi beat Elizabeth Warren 7% versus Warren's 4%. And this one's even more interesting. Among non-white voters in New Hampshire with no college degree, Tulsi at 11%, Warren at 1%. And now I picked out Warren there to contrast her with, because Warren got a huge amount of media attention, is always regarded as one of the top tier candidates. She did place ahead of Tulsi, but think about it. New Hampshire is in the media market of the state where Warren has been a senator since 2013. And she didn't even break into the double digits. She's at 9.3%. And obviously Warren has virtually no support among less educated, less affluent people. So the rationale for Warren's candidacy is largely imploding relative to where she was expected to be. I mean, expectations is kind of a fluid and almost ridiculous concept that pundits use to sort of frame election outcomes, but Tulsi's performance here is roughly in line with what she would have been expected to have gotten. Would she have preferred to overperform? Yeah, no doubt. But if you look at Warren, she just collapsed. Same with Biden. So I don't see what argument there is for Warren to continue here, unless maybe Warren just does believe that she has a unique message, and similar to Tulsi, she wants to press on. Warren claims to have a national organization, um, but I think Bernie is definitely on a straight trajectory to being the leading candidate at the very least. Whether that means he's going to have a majority of delegates remains to be seen. But Nevada being next is perfectly suited for him because it's a caucus state, heavily Hispanic, where he has good support. So I expect him to win Nevada, barring any unforeseen developments. We don't know who the culinary union there is going to endorse yet. Apparently, they're not going to endorse Bernie because they don't like that his healthcare plan is going to, eliminate their private insurance, which they've negotiated, and they have a very good insurance plan. So who knows? I mean, um, it's interesting. It's still a pretty volatile race. Bernie the leader, and yeah, don't know what to say. I think there are uh, some things that Tulsi potentially could have done to capitalize on her potential vote pool more that were not done. But you have to sort of weigh that against this vicious marginalization campaign. And yeah, I mean, I think she's gonna press on. So that's just a quick update for you, people. The next time I do this, I will not be staring down at you on my phone. I'll be a little more. Um, I'll be a little more professional, even though I'm never really professional. All right. Have a nice night. Oh, and R.I.P. Michael Bennett.